nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Bucs.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
Howdy ho, howdy hey, how the hell is everybody? Welcome back into a very exciting free agency special here of the Buccateers podcast. Free agency madness, we're calling it. Going to be joined by Joey Nips of Cleveland, me here shortly, and probably J-Lo as well. And you never know what other characters decide to hop on. But busy couple of days for the Buccaneers so far. Busy, crazy, wild of couple of days in the National Football League in general. I'm Tampa Tones, and we're going to take you through at least an hour or so of football coverage. If anything happens live, we'll be breaking that to you, and we'll be bringing you guys all the latest and greatest news from around the NFL, contract details, contracts, releases, so much more in this very busy time of sports. Up to the date, what's happening? Saints made a big splash not too long ago. The Saints signed safety Justin Reed from the Kansas City Chiefs, so that's a pretty big signing for the Saints. They've woken up out of hibernation, it seems. They've agreed to terms with Reed, and then they also brought back Chase Young late last night, although I thought it was an overpay. And they made a trade yesterday as well with the New England Patriots. We'll get into that more so here in the future too. But in case you missed it, Justin Reed, 3 years, $31.5 million deal with the Saints going over there from the Kansas City Chiefs. Also at this hour, Jacoby Brissett making his way to Arizona, signing with the Cardinals over there. So a lot of interesting moves to get into. Robert Tonyan, the tight end, former Bear and Packer, makes his way to Kansas City. Couple of punter moves. Johnny Hekker is no longer a Panther. He is now a Tennessee Titan. So that makes total sense there, as they needed a punter. And then the Panthers replaced Johnny Hekker with former Bills punter Sam Martin. So a bunch of stuff going on around the world of football. Colts agreed to terms with Wesley French, but a big couple of days for your Buccaneers. Let's start off with the obvious. Chris Godwin, 3 year, $66 million deal. The beloved one foe. Chris Godwin is back in the Bay. Man, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful moment that was yesterday, getting Chris Godwin back. And not oftentimes do you get to keep 2 stars on your team for that good of a price. And I'm talking about Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, especially wide receivers. They both come in at very favorable deals. Evans making $20.5 million, Godwin right around $22 million. I was hoping we got him 3 for $63, so 3 for $66 makes me very happy, very affordable, very favorable. Reports out there that New England or another team offered him potentially up to $20 million more total in a contract, but Chris Godwin came back to the Buccaneers. He was just on with T-Kraz on Tampa Sports Radio, WDAE, and he had a lot to say, a lot of good stuff to say. He said he's never been a man who prioritized money in terms of making his decision. And he wanted to stick true to that. So kudos to Chris Godwin for doing just that. Finally joined by J-Lo. We'll get him on here shortly. But He said he never prioritizes money, and that holds true here. If the $20 million rumor is true that he was offered that much more. We have two number ones in Tampa, both being very favorable. Also, Godwin said he's played against Haason Reddick in college when he was at Temple. Godwin was at Penn State. He said Reddick had a 3-sack game against him, and very excited for him to be joining the Bucs with his big production. So a lot of good things to say. He was also on NFL Network. He also had a press conference with the Bucs. But if you're looking for Godwin coverage, there's no shortage of it. NFL Network, YouTube, the Bucs YouTube, or T-Kraz on WDAE. They all had Chris Godwin on as he's making his rounds here. J-Lo, how the hell are you? We're addressing the Godwin signing. Godwin is back, my friend. Thoughts and feels on Chris Godwin remaining in the Bay for very favorable money?
I mean, let's be real here. You and I both know. We knew he wasn't going nowhere. But at the end of the day, I watched his press conference, and he was very true to his word and what he said. He wants to win more championships in Tampa Bay. He just loves it here. Regardless of how much money he turned down, Godwin is a team player, which we all knew he was. And him being back is ecstatic. It just makes our offense pick up where we left off last season. Hopefully, he'll recover and we'll be ready for week 1 when he returns. But I'm excited. I'm glad that nightmare is over with because, everybody's having heart attacks before that noon hit yesterday saying, oh, my God, he has been resigned. And sure enough, he's a Buc.
Yeah, it broke out pretty quick there in the morning yesterday in quote-unquote legal tampering opening, but it's really the opening of free agency. Yesterday, Monday was. And then obviously right around the same time as the Godwin news, well, right before free agency opened, I should say, Bucs got Ben Bredeson back on a very favorable deal, J-Lo, 3 years, $22 million. You see some of these other deals being made. That's a very good one, very favorable one. What are your thoughts on Ben Bredeson returning to Tampa for right over $7 million a season over 3 years?
Well deserved, and the money they're paying him to me is very valuable because he can play center as well. So that's a good thing to have. God forbid if something happens to Graham Barton, he can step in at center. But the amount of money we gave him, I felt he deserved it. And you want to keep that continuity of the offensive line from last year, which was like top 5 in my opinion. So bringing him back's a plus. And the fact that he can play another position, that's another huge tool. You can't go wrong with that, and I'm happy to have him back.
I'm very happy to have him back as well. Incredible person on and off the field. He just welcomed a newborn here in January as well, so probably would be pretty hard changes ahead if you try and move and all that. So on and off the field, there's a Godwin Foundation, his charity. For Godwin, I'm talking about everything good. Bredeson returning. Great to have him back as well. I love Bredeson, J-Lo. He went to Michigan, was a Michigan man. Giants kind of got off to a slow start in his career, but he didn't really get the chance. And in his last year in New York, he showed his potential. Then last year with the Bucs, he came on like a wrecking ball. And I know people could say he's in between Barton, as you alluded to, and worse, but that's not always easy. Remember when they tried to squeeze Godecki in at right guard in between a couple of people and it didn't turn out too good? Tried to change him to the left side, didn't turn out too good. So Bredeson, kudos to him for being a great fit. Then J-Lo, you see the Fries contract in Minnesota, the Hainsey contract in Jacksonville. This contract looks very team friendly. We pretty much got Bredeson for the same money as Hainsey. Hainsey hasn't started in over a year. Been a couple of years for him. And then Fries is making 11 more million a season than Bredeson. Are you kidding me? So J-Lo, not only are guys like Bredeson and Godwin back, but then De'Ami Brown gets 10 million, Palmer gets 12 million, Godwin 22 million. So the Bucs have very favorable, respectable dollars on their contracts as well while they're retaining people. We'll get into the newcomers here in today's news shortly, but with guys like Bredeson and Godwin, J-Lo, even Levante too, very respectable and or team-friendly contracts for these individuals.
No, agreed. I mean, it shows the organization how much they love playing here. Like I mean, who knows how much money they all could have made? They went somewhere else, but clearly that wasn't the case. They wanted to stay in the same organization that they enjoyed playing for. And outside the Bucs, around the NFL, no one seems to realize that. Everybody wants to come play in Tampa. At least the ones that have been here want to stay here, no matter what the cost is. It's all about continuity and plus trying to keep everybody together at the same pace. So it doesn't surprise me we got all three back. We all kind of knew it. I mean, Bredeson was kind of a question mark, but either way, we got the same players from last year. Our offensive line is going to be the same. We got Godwin and Evans back as our two outside receivers, or not plugging Godwin in the slot. I mean, this offense is going to go higher than last year, in my opinion, with that, having everybody back in there.
Joey, before we move on here, out of Chris Godwin, Levante David, Ben Bredeson. Levante was 1 year, $9 million, could earn up to 10. Godwin, 3 years, $66 million. Bredeson on a bargain bin deal, 3 year, 22. J-Lo and I were like, look at Will Fry's $18 million a year. Bredeson coming in $11 million less. Out of those three big returns, which of those are your favorite for this Bucs team? And welcome onto the show. Been a crazy whirlwind of a week in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. Good to join you, gentlemen, on such a beautiful day, not only outside, but in the football realm of the world for our teams as well. And from the Bucs perspective, for me, I always said, and I'll stick to it, that Levante David to me was a must. I love both of the other deals. I even like the Anthony Nelson move. I like who they have retained in general. But the reason I always go back to the Levante David is because, let's face it, whoever played alongside him last year, once injuries started to happen, things broke down, and you couldn't afford to fill, to me, both of those positions. You now have your leader back, your core, your play caller, your quarterback of the defense. And now I'm not saying you sidestep the position by any means, but if you want to take a chance on a low-end vet or a rookie that could play upside, you have the opportunity instead of having to spend valuable money on somebody else. I mean, you just said the contract. I forget off the top of my head exactly what he's going to be making, but you're not giving him the world. So
yeah,
I'm going Levante.
1 year, $9 million for Levante, could be up to 10. So, but coming around right, Bobby Wagner's range, other linebackers range, very, very team friendly deal on Levante. In my opinion, he could go out there and get more money. Like years past, he could have as well,
too, right?
Yeah, Godwin, J-Lo, and I covered that. He could have gotten $20 million more. Ian Rappaport has allegedly rumored to probably be the Patriots, but you never know if it was another team. And Godwin confirmed that as well. And he was on the drive with T-Kraz and WDAE, and he said, "I don't prioritize money." So class act. He says he prioritizes family and winning. And his family and winning resides in Tampa. Also back, J-Lo, Anthony Nelson, 2-year deal, $10 million. It could be up to $12 million with incentives, but he's quietly turning into a potential Will Golston type of potential Bucs lifer. This is already his third contract with the team. Been a member of the Bucs since 2019. Knock on wood, all goes well by the time this contract's up. That'll be 8 seasons out of 8 seasons in the NFL with the Bucs for Anthony Nelson. He's a steady Eddie in terms of production, gets anywhere from 3 to 5 sacks a year. Very good in the run game. Had a huge play against Carolina this year to keep us in that game, J-Lo. Pretty much seemed like we would choose him over JTS for depth. That came true. We'll talk about JTS departure later. But thoughts on Nelson being retained by the Bucs, J-Lo?
Just experience, and he knows the top bull scheme. He fits it pretty well on the run stuffing. Once in a while, we get pressure, but he did come in clutch last year, helping us win a big football game that we probably had no business winning the way we played. But I'm all for Nelson being back. I'm happy to have him back. More depth piece. It just makes life a lot easier when you got people in the room and who can fill their position as a role player. That's what he is to this team, a great role player.
Yeah, he's very much so earning his role in the edge room. He could even shift to D-line as he gets older. Who knows? Will Golston's role change drastically. But 2 years, 10 million, could be up to 12 for Anthony Nelson. So now returning, that's Godwin, Bredeson, Nelson, Levante David, Kayvon Merriweather, Eric Banks, the D lineman. And we're just starting here in free agency, only really on day 2. So incredible stuff there. And speaking of incredible, Bucs had to address a few positions. They're doing an incredible job in doing so. Haason Reddick signed a 1-year, $12 million deal, could earn up to $14 million. J-Lo, wasn't long ago this guy was a perennial double-digit sacks a year guy. Obviously ran into trouble last year. We talked about him on this show on a Saturday, said, hey, look, between him and the Jets, both are kind of acting clownish, not sure what's going on. You kind of look at the big picture. The Jets kind of screwed him. They traded for him, said they'd give him a big deal. They never did. The players should still honor him playing, but he ended up doing so. Played in 10 games last year, had a down season. Here he is, the entire chance in the world to try and prove himself and earn himself that big edge rusher money that you see Crosby, Garrett, and so much other of these guys getting, J-Lo.
Yeah, last year was really weird with the whole situation with the Jets, him getting traded. I'm not going to put it all on the Jets. You know, that GM was a bozo, and that's why he doesn't have a job right now. He obviously didn't prepare the contract, I guess, Haason felt like he deserved last year. Because like you just mentioned, he was a double-digit sack guy for 3 or 4 straight seasons, and it just didn't add up to where they couldn't come to agreement. And then, of course, you got to remember this. When he came on, finally started playing, I mean, Robert Saleh was out the building. He wasn't even coaching. So they had a whole new coach, scenery, and all that. So that's one thing you got to look at it. But him getting the deal he got, it's a low-risk, 1-year deal. You know, he's got
exactly. That's the beautiful thing about it. If he's bad after a year, you're done with him and you don't owe him any money on the books or anything. No. And if he, returns to his normal elite pass rush status, well, him, Kancey, Vea, Diaby up front, Logan Hall could be a very good recipe for success and hopefully help the Bucs cornerback room in general. Pelicans, what's up, everybody? How are the Buccaneers doing in free agency? Because the Saints are doing good. Yeah, Pelicans. Saints are waking up late. I like the Reed safety signing, Chase Young. Even though you overpaid a little bit, you got to do that to keep a guy like that. Made a good trade for the Patriots defensive lineman yesterday. So I like what they're doing. They're late bloomers here. They retain their tight end as well. But, between the trade for Godchew, however you say it, from the Patriots, by retaining their tight end, Jawan Johnson, by retaining Chase Young, by bringing in Reed, Joey, all of a sudden the Saints are looking up in free agency after being dormant for the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're kind of were always in cap hell to certain points in the year. I know Derek Carr restructured his deal. And listen, they have to make some moves here to stay relevant in this division because Carolina, to me, is only going to improve. Atlanta have no idea what that dog shit organization is doing over there, but the Saints are looking a little bit alive here. I like the safety move, like you mentioned, and Chase Young's had a very weird career, but it worked out for New Orleans, so that should continue. And then Tyrann Mathieu back as well, so we'll see what goes on, but they always have a chance.
And I like Jawan Johnson too, underrated tight end in my opinion.
Absolutely, and I think they needed to change out from Dennis Allen. He's a great D coordinator, not a head coach. So we'll see what happens here at Kellen Moore in the group, but I like it so far.
And then Joey, quick thoughts on Haason Reddick joining the Bucs.
I mean, I was just looking back now to see. To me, you always want to see it when a player really kicks up in their career and when they really drop off. And 1 year of bullshit with the Jets is not a drop off. This guy, like you said, when he played for the Jets in the tail end, for Philly in the tail end with the Cardinals, he was producing at a high rate with many sacks. When you come to Tampa Bay from New York, the beautiful Tampa Bay from New York, I might add, when you come to a great organization versus the New York Jets, you're automatically going to be rejuvenated. And some players just quite frankly need that. The Jets were not a good team, and not saying he cared about this, but not the most beautiful weather out there. I think with the good organization in Tampa Bay, let's face it, every player has a line at the end. He needs to do good here. So I think big move for the Bucs. Look for 10-plus sacks out of him this season.
I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. From 2020 to 2023, a 4-year span, he had 58.5 sacks, which is very damn good. 2 Pro Bowls, 1 second-team All-Pro, average 14.625 sacks a season across those 4. He was from Temple, so it was expected he started his career slower, which he did a little bit in Arizona, but he was a project first-round pick. Then he burst onto the scene again last year. Wanted that contract from the Eagles. They never got it, so he held out. That could have affected him. Got traded to the Jets. Jets promised him a contract. He held out again. Obviously, came back in to the regime later, but could be an elite pass rusher at the top of his game. And I think Todd Bowles, new defensive line coach, Strong, will get some new looks and schemes in there for him. So I think the arrow's pointed up. Last Bucs edition, for now, they've made some good ones, but it's been Punter. And as we know, last year, one of the things they needed most, believe it or not, the whole season was a punter. They went through a couple. As Pelicans Nola said, how are the Bucs doing in free agency? We're rounding that out now. Between Browner, and Camarda last year, it was just terrible punting. Trenton Gill was terrible, so they fixed it this year by getting Riley Dixon, former Baker Mayfield teammate with the Rams, played under special teams coordinator Thomas McGoffey when he was with the Giants. He's 31 years old, 2 years, up to $6 million. Ranked 10th in net punting last year, which is damn good. Top 5 in punts within the 10-yard line, which is awesome. Very minimal touchbacks. Could throw the football. Had a great trick play in the past postseason, Broncos-Bills. For those who remember, he converted a 4th down trick play throwing the football. J-Lo, thoughts on this signing? I think Riley Dixon of the Bucs is one of the better ones in the period. Many breaking news here as well. The Texans are signing Nick Niemann to a 2-year deal worth up to $6.5 million. The former Chargers special teams ace heads to Houston. But J-Lo, thoughts on Riley Dixon and the Bucs?
No, it's a good addition. I'm glad Light decided to hit that up really quick, get that addition going. We struggled a lot.
I think he was the best punter out of the ones available. Hecker, Martin, no disrespect to them, but give me Riley Dixon.
No, I couldn't agree more. I trust in Light that, he's going to pick the best guy he thinks will fit this team. And adding him now, hopefully will resolve our punting issues on field position. That way we can close out games and not give the opponent so much good field position. So I'm all for it. I'm glad we took care of that early now instead of later.
Joey, as a Colts fan, which we'll get into them here in a bit as well, they've been off to a booming start in free agency, but you're used to good punting between your times with McAfee, nowadays Rigoberto Sanchez. Bucs do themselves a favor. Camarda was very good his first couple of years, tapered off last year, went to Trenton Gill, then went to the undrafted rookie Browner. Now it makes him bring in a punter, Riley Dixon, out of free agency, but top 10 in a lot of categories last year. Played with Baker Mayfield, played under Thomas McGoffey in years past. Like I said, could throw the football in trick plays, Joey. What are your thoughts on the Bucs addressing a big need? Sounds sad, but a big need at the punting position.
Oh, listen, I mean, in today's NFL where teams are scoring at alarming rates, it is key when you have the opportunity to pin within the 20-yard line. It's frustrating when you're at midfield and you punt it straight out of bounds, or guy gets a return up to the 30-yard line, or when you're pinned back, shank it, that you can't trust. So this is a very good move. You don't need to blow, the bank on this either. I don't mind 2 years, $6 million, whatever you mentioned there. That's a fine price for a guy who can get the job done. The Bucs figured it out a few games, I feel like, last year, but let's be honest, probably 75% of the 80% of the season, we were a little bit worried about that. So you can't look past punter. You can't just cheap it up and hope to cover it with some tape. I think they did the right thing.
You'll like this one, Joey. We're going to get into the Colts here shortly. Our guy Bud Cannibalist says would have liked to sign Ward, but Indy stole him. Yes, they did. We'll talk about that shortly, although I don't think the Bucs ended up keeping Dean which I agree with. Him making 13 million looks like a steal compared to what some of these free agents are getting. So I think the Bucs keeping Dean took him out of the running for a guy like Ward, but we'll discuss both of those here momentarily. Joey, funny thing yesterday, Samaje Perine and Ben Bredeson share age.
Jason Light cracked me up. I'm sorry.
This is hilarious. For those that missed it, Aaron Wilson, very reliable reporter out of Houston. Dove Kleiman is not, so we're not even going to bring his name into this. But when a guy like Aaron Wilson tweets something, it gains traction. So it was confirmed by multiple reporters, but pretty much the agent of Ben Bredeson and Samaje Perine, again, the same agent, he tweeted the NFL Wire, and he mixed up the contract details and teams of Bredeson and Perine. So in Aaron Wilson, when it's this time of year, NFL draft time, you're just moving a million minutes per hour. He just tweeted out Samaje Perine quick, and the contract seemed inflated as hell. Right away, Jason Light, not only did he shut it down on Twitter, but he made Dove Kleiman look like an idiot and not Aaron Wilson. So great job there. Hate Dove Kleiman. But Jason Light quote tweeted him and said, nope, not today. We're not signing him. Quick thoughts on that funny story, J-Lo?
Yeah, that was head scratching. When I was at work, I took a glance at my phone. I saw the name Perine. I'm like, Perine? I said, what? Is someone getting traded we didn't know about? Like, I couldn't understand that. So then later on, in the group text you put it was fake, and I'm like, oh, hallelujah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a good player, but our running back room's solid.
And it makes sense for this Bucs team, right?
No, not at all. It made no sense.
If anything, I don't expect it, but J-Lo, if anything, it makes sense at that point then just to bring Edmonds back on the minimum if you're going to bring in a guy like Perine on $7 million. It was just all...
It made no sense at all. For a guy who was on the Chiefs roster, he got released by the Broncos, and then he had a short stint with the Chiefs, but didn't see the ball as much. It didn't make sense why giving him the hefty payday. I mean, maybe Rico Dowdle, I can understand from the Cowboys because he's a free agent. But this guy, but anyway, luckily, it was just bad reporting. It was mistweeted, I guess, and he ended up going back to the Bengals, I believe. So he signed back with the Bengals, I think, not too long. Later on the day, he signed with the Bengals. So that's where he went. He ain't a Buck, that's for sure.
Yeah, Joey, quickly, that was epic. Perine, first of all, would have been an overpay. Second of all, Bucs don't need running backs. Just hilarious.
Yeah, I know there's been some rumblings out there. Maybe they would possibly do something with maybe a Rashad White or something at some point, but it still didn't make sense to me. Bucky Irving, you have on a nice rookie deal. You have Tucker, who didn't play as much as I'd like to at points. So you figure even if they did get rid of a running back, which they're not going to do, they still have two solid ones. So that would have been an overpay and something that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but funny. I love how Jason Light keeps it light. No pun intended. Pun intended.
And again, I love that. But I feel like only scenario rarely they would have gotten Rashad White type of stipulation is if they were to try and trade for an elite pass rusher and a team demanded Rashad was in the package. And then it's like, all right, well, we do have Tucker and Bucky, so we could part with them. But other than that, this cat's a good pass blocker, pass protector. He could catch balls out of the backfield, and he seems like he's fine in running back 2 roles. So keep your $7 million. Actually, he ended up getting like
is
$2
Bucky
million.
Irving, do you think there is an increase? I know this could be a dumb question, but increase in playing time, or keep him fresh and use your 3-headed monster and don't run him out in the regular season?
I think he'll get a slight increase in snaps, but I feel like his touches aren't going to get elevated too much. I feel like, they're going to keep Rashad in the game. I feel like Sean Tucker earned his role as a here and there type guy. I feel like he'll technically be, last year we saw Rashad White as a starting running back and so forth. I think next year it's technically Bucky Irvin starting backfield. I think his snaps will go up, but I don't think his touches will. J-Lo, what say you?
No, I agree. I think Bucky will get a little bit more snaps, touches. We'll see. Just depends on the package that Grizzard's going to put together because now it's his offense. But, at the same time, I think Tucker's a good, thumper on those third and shorts. You want to get the ball to run up. I like him more than White, honestly. White, to me, is a good pass catcher, a great run blocker, a pass blocker. That's one thing that was Sean Tucker's downfall. He's not a great pass blocker. So that's what limited his time on the field. But I think we'll see an increase in his role, whatever they choose to do with him. But Bucky, on the other hand, Bucky will get definitely more snaps. Maybe some amount of touches. It just depends on his durability because he was playing hurt most of the year. So, but we'll see more.
Pops had a great question as well. He texted into the show, and then we're gonna move on because we got a loaded show. Not to cut you off, J-Lo, but we got mounds and mounds of Colts and NFL business to doctor up here. Pop says, does our punter have similar stats in Mile High and the road? Do you know? So good question. I do have some research on that. And he's had 2 stints with the Broncos. He started his career in Denver for the first 4 or 5 years of his career. So in the last season, he was in Denver. Also had stints with the Giants and Rams. But last year, he was actually arguably more effective on the road. And I'll explain. It's tough to say, but I'll explain why here in a minute. Technically, he had 47.94 yards per punt at home against 45.63 yards per punt on the road. So you're like, damn, he had 2 more punts in Denver, 2 more yards of punt in Denver, which would make sense. But at the same token, on the road, his touchback rate was only 2.4%. As opposed to at home, it was 11.1%. So, yeah, he did get 2 more yards per punt away, or 2 more yards per punt at home in Mile High, but he also only had 1 touchback for the entire season punting on the road, which means he was a great guy inside the 20-yard line. So, it depends how you look at it. He punted for more yards per punt at home by about 2.34. He had 47.94 yards a punt at home, 45.63 yards per punt on the road. But his touchback rate at home was 11.1. On the road, it was 2.4. So, very good breakdown there on Riley Dixon, our punter. But speaking of breakdowns, we're breaking it down. Moving on to the Colts, and we'll get to the Bucs. J-Lo, before we do that, real quick, what's next for the Bucs? 10 seconds or less. What do you expect next for Tampa Bay?
Maybe to fill the DB room, maybe add a veteran outside, maybe add another veteran at the nickel position. I think that's the next step, is getting a DB in there to fill the DB room out.
Joey, 5 seconds next for the Bucs.
I'm sorry, I got nothing. Balls are heavier in the humidity. I just took that the wrong way.
Jesus, this guy, he's getting socked over here.
I'm sorry.
Pelicans Nola says Ward was offered from the Saints, but he went to Indianapolis. So we'll get into that here momentarily as we're live here on the Buccateers, talking all things NFL free agency, Tampa Bay Bucs, so much more here on a Taco Tuesday. We got news breaking as we speak. We'll get into that momentarily. Oh, man. Anyway, Joey, we're going to get into Daniel Jones here first. This is my desired number 1 choice for the Colts quarterback room, and I'll explain why for a couple of reasons. He fits well in terms of if you did have to go to him opposed to Anthony Richardson. It's not a big change of game plan, right? His legs are good. He can make some throws. So although his arm strength aid is good, Richardson needs to be more accurate anyhow. So it's a pretty good backup in terms of them not changing types too much. And then I don't think he's going to again, he outplays Richardson. He could be the starter, but I don't think he's going to over-threaten Richardson to the point of a locker room divide. Any of that means you get him on 1 year, $14 million, could be up to 17 and a quarter. What's the buzz around Indianapolis? I like this move for the Colts a lot. Multiple reasons. He has playoff experience too. And if you need, he could step in for 3 games and really ball out if Richardson gets hurt. And say if sadly Richardson doesn't live up to the hype, now you got a playoff quarterback at your disposal who could fill you in some games. I mean, he earned the big original contract from the Giants for a reason. Teams like Daniel Jones and the Colts surely did to give him 14 to 17 and a quarter million.
Yeah, and good points. And listen, for the national media who, chats a lot on his commentary, even our own Pat McAfee, they are creating more of a competition than it really is. Like you said, we were looking for a backup quarterback. You do not bring back Chris Ballard. You do not bring back Shane Steichen if you are not going to hand the keys to Anthony Richardson day one and see what happens. Now, after week one, it's hands off. If you have 3 or 4 games in a row that go poorly, or you have an injury that happens, of course, anything can happen. But don't let it get it twisted out there, people. This is for him to be the backup at the start of the season. Things can maybe change as the year goes on. I'm not going to say that. But the reason they kept the GM and the coach is because they're tied to the quarterback, and they will give Anthony Richardson all the options possible. They just want a little more competition than a 40-year-old Flacco or a middle-of-the-road Gardner Minshew. So great move, great backup. Love the one-year deal.
More news out of the NFL. Ari Morov from My Sports Update reporting comp picks for this year's draft. The Colts and Bucs, neither of them are getting comp picks for the 2025 draft. That's expected to be the news over there. A little bit more news before we get J-Lo's thoughts on the Colts. Bills are re-signing running back Ty Johnson to a 2-year deal. So good running back depth there for Buffalo. They also signed Darrington Evans earlier as well. The Bills continue to make a ton of moves here as free agency unfolds. The Dolphins are finalizing a deal with former Jets safety Ashton Davis. Davis has 8 career interceptions and now remains in the AFC East with Miami. That's according to Fox News, or not Fox News, Fox Sports reporter Jordan Schultz. So a lot of stuff keeps happening, fellas. And again, we'll be here as long as we're on the air. We'll be giving you guys the latest and greatest breaking news like we are now. But J-Lo, thoughts on Daniel Jones to the Indianapolis Colts? What are your thoughts on their quarterback room?
It's a good plan B. If AR can stay healthy, I think it won't be that big of a deal. He'll be a solid backup. But AR is durability. That's the problem. Or is it consistency? At least they got an experienced quarterback who can go in there. If AR can't get it together, which I don't think that's the case, I think he will. But if he can, then you got Daniel Jones, who's had some success. Keyword some success, not all success, but some success, playing quarterback and delivering the ball. Sometimes changing scenery can change that. But I'm all for it, It just pushes AR a little bit more, let him know, hey, if you can't get it going and you can't be consistent, then we're going to have to bench you. But
yeah,
we'll wait to see what happens. But I do like the Ward pickup and the safety they got from Minnesota.
Yeah, we're going to get into that here shortly, very much shortly here as we dig into these things. We don't half-ass them here. So we'll get into that talk greatly as we're on our Colts block right now. And Katz, if we have you, give us a buzz. But Katz, are you there or not yet?
I'm here.
What are your thoughts on Daniel Jones heading to the world of Indianapolis Colts? Bud Vanderbilt says he's already been coined the name Indiana Jones. So there we go.
I think it's a smart move. I mean, you have a backup plan if Anthony Richardson either, doesn't play well or if he gets hurt. You have an experienced backup who's had some success. I think he made most of his success off of one game, which is unfortunately against the Bucs, but parlayed that into a nice contract. But yeah, I think it's a good signing for them.
Yeah, I do too. I think it pushes them well. A couple other moves being made. Bears free agent center Coleman Shelton started all the games last year with the Bears, reached agreement on a 2-year deal to go back to the Rams. So he left the Rams to go to the Bears, and now he is back to the Rams. Also, free agent wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Ikine from the Titans went to the Dolphins on a 2-year, $6.5 million deal. That seems like good value for him based on what we're hearing from like a guy like De'Ami Brown, 1 year, $10 million, but then him getting 2 years, $6.5. So free agency doesn't stop, ladies and gentlemen. Joey, before I get to the Colts defensive ads, I want to get them address them retaining some offensive line depth. They made a couple of offensive line re-signings, a big one the other day. Then today they re-sign more of a depth offensive lineman. Just about an hour and a half ago, James Boyd reported Wesley French, the center, had returned to Indy, and then they re-signed one of their big boys a day or two ago. Forget what day that was exactly. But thoughts on the Colts? Yeah, they may have lost Kelly, they may have lost Fries, but that was a little more expected. They're retaining some of their O-linemen at the same token.
Yeah, and listen, when you already have $20 million a year tied up in Quentin Nelson at guard, you can't overpay like the Vikings did for Will Fries at right guard, giving him, what was it, 5 years, $88 million with 54 on the line guaranteed. So you cannot tie that much up into guards. That's why last year, 3rd and 4th round, we found 2 linemen that played a lot of the season. Big Bortolini out of Wisconsin, Gonzalez out of Boston College. That is where it might not be the sexiest pick at the time. People might overlook it, but you could find good O linemen, good D linemen in these 3rd, 4th, even sometimes the 5th round where they could start for you for a long time. And it's important when you're trying to pay other players, you get some of these guys on those rookie contracts, including your quarterback at times. So like the depth, like you mentioned, we kept Braden Smith at right tackle. But again, the reason you might not have seen us retain Ryan Kelly and both went to Minnesota, Will Fries, you can't tie that much up in the O-line when you have other needs. And like you said, we'll talk about it, but that led us to signing some good defensive backs.
Yeah, Wesley French numbers aren't out yet that I see, but, you got to let Fries and Kelly go when they're making it that much money. J-Lo, thoughts on the Colts re-signing a couple of linemen, hoping to keep Richardson and or Danny Dimes upright?
No, it's important. You got to go in the trenches. You got to protect your quarterback on the offensive side of the ball. Just like on defense, you got to go in the trenches to get pressure. But it's good to add O-line depth because injuries happen. So that's good that they retain a couple of their guys they already know and they're familiar with.
Hey, Cats, shifting gears to defense here. Colts signed a couple of big-name defenders yesterday. Thoughts on them? Were you hoping the Bucs may have looked at either one of them? The Colts signed cornerback Ward, formerly of the Chiefs, then went to San Fran, and safety Cameron Bynum, formerly of the Vikings. Bynum gets 4 years, $60 million from the Colts, so good payday there, well deserved on Bynum's behalf. Had some really good stuff with Minnesota. Then Charvarius Ward, 3 years, up to $60 million. Again, 49ers and Chiefs formerly. But Kat, are you familiar with either one of them, and were you hoping the Bucs may have taken a poke at one of those two?
Charvarius Ward was a guy that I did hope that, but I had a feeling he was going to be a little bit too rich for our blood. Honestly, I didn't think that they were going to, willing to tie that much money up in a corner. That doesn't mean, I fully anticipate to them to add a corner, whether it be for depth or to potentially push Jamel Dean as a starter, because it does look like Dean, for now anyway, is staying. They might try to get him to take a pay cut of sorts. I think he might agree to that, just based on, he wouldn't get $15 million or whatever it is on the open market anyway. So Ward, I thought, was going to be a little bit out of our price range, but I would have liked to have.
I agree with that. He would have been great here, but out of our price range. Dean's a little cheaper, and he at least knows the system. But Ward, a great one, and Bynum, a great one. To me, my favorite move the Colts made so far is Bynum. This kid's got a big boomstick. He's a good hitter. He's a ball hawk. He can make plays. In his time with Minnesota, he's really made them a threat. I mean, it doesn't matter who their QB is. Their defense is always out there playing some good football. And now the Colts have really not only one, but two good pieces to add between Ward and their new safety in Bynum. Joey, what say you between Cameron, Bynum, and Ward? How is Colts Nation feeling? These are two not big, but huge pieces added to their defense. A lot of reporters are making jokes. Did Chris Ballard get abducted? This isn't his type of behavior, signing this type of standout power defensively.
Listen, I told you on Saturday's show, if we got to today and nothing happened yet, I go crazy. And I don't have to for the first time in years. The biggest free agent signing.
I'd say that's three big signings. I'll give him Daniel Jones in that category.
Sure, throw him in there. I mean, to this point, Chris Ballard, on year 9. The biggest signing he had outside retaining his own was Jabal Sheard at 3 years for $27 million. That doesn't quite knock the doors off anybody, okay? The best ability is availability, and that's exactly what Bynum and Ward give you. Unfortunately, like Shaq Barrett, Ward struggled last year. He also had his 1-year-old daughter pass away, so you can never – I don't care what anybody says, how much money you make, do whatever. When you have something that tragic in your life, that's going to affect the way you play on the field for quite a long time. And, you'll never move on from something like that. But to get back to it, they got guys who played playoff football games. This Colts team doesn't have a ton of players who also have done that. Between Chiefs and 49ers, Ward has played an abundance of playoff games and really good football. We needed Lou Anarumo to come in and honestly demand better talent. We have Kenny Moore in the slot. Now we have Bynum at safety, who's did great in Minnesota. He played 17 games the last 3 seasons. And then you added Ward on the outside. So, you got to create pressure sometimes. People don't realize this by having a good back end. The more your back end can hold up, the more the pressure can get home. We have good things on the D-line, a lot of money in first-round picks. And I'm very excited between Ward, Bynum, Kenny Moore. I think we have one of the better defensive groupings in all of football now.
Yeah, I like those two a lot. Quick update in sports. Epic game if you have ACC Network. Cal and Virginia Tech. It's the first game or first round of the ACC tournament. 1-point game, 5 seconds remaining. Fun stuff over there. J-Lo, I know you're eager at the bit to talk about it, my friend, as we all are. Thoughts on the Colts additions defensively? Not one, but 2 big signings here for Indianapolis to help better their defensive side of the pigskin.
No, definitely. They got a lot of help in the secondary. When it comes to Ward and the safety they brought in, Bynum, I think that's a good tandem right there. Ward, y'all know I liked him a lot from the get-go. I would have loved him in red and pewter, but I'm happy he's going to the Colts, fresh start. I think he's going to do a lot of great things over there. Getting back to what he was used to doing in Kansas City and San Francisco, just shutting down the receiver, taking out the number 1, making it difficult for the quarterback to find him. So good for the Colts part. With a new D coordinator, you give him 2 quality players that can help this defense be more successful and keep the offense off the field.
Yeah, and Pops is a good question. He texted into the program. So is the Colts QB situation like the Steelers last year? I say it's different because Russell Wilson, longtime veteran in this league, he's kind of on the way out, whereas Daniel Jones and Richardson are still both gnawing at the bit to be on the up and up in this league, earn their big paydays in the future. So I agree it's similar. Fields and Daniel Jones, I'd put Daniel Jones in a Fields type of situation last year. But Joey, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Russ and Richardson are obviously on different wavelengths.
Here's the difference. Richardson is not. People talk about the tap out too long because they don't got enough other things to talk about. They could talk about behind the scenes. Again, the best ability is availability. That's why we signed Daniel Jones. He's only played 17 out of 34 games. So realistically, that means Daniel Jones could play up to close to half the games, and you want to keep this style similar. Not saying he has the same wheels, but we all know what I'm talking about. So I wouldn't exactly call it similar. We are just saying, hey, we need an insurance policy, and we'll see what happens. It's not really about an aging quarterback. This is about a policy that if Richardson gets injured or if we get to week 4 and things are bad, boom, insert your Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and for the Steelers, it was kind of a true toss-up of who the hell was going to start for them last year, right? This more so feels like Richardson's job to lose, where last year for Pittsburgh, it was like, will it be Fields? Will it be Russ? It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. But Pop says new nickname for Chris Ballard, Chris Big Fucking Balls Ballard. Well, we know winning materializes happiness. I want to see
you're on
wins
the hot
on the
seat.
I like the production, but now let's see win. And same for other teams.
Nobody wins a Super Bowl this month. We all always have to keep that in mind. But it is great to see the additions the Buccaneers and Colts have made.
One of the beautiful things I always tell J-Lo, a lot of the big ticket free agency items today are the cap casualty roster releases of tomorrow. Let's hope that ain't the case with our Cats, because I do like what we're doing. Speaking of Cats, we got our Cats in the house. Cats, I don't know if you heard, but JTS went to the Browns. Robert Hainsey, obviously, to Jacksonville. Before we get back on one last Colts question, quick, Cats. Out of JTS leaving to Cleveland and Robert Hainsey leaving to Jacksonville, which of those impress you, or depress you, I should say, more as a Bucs fan?
Well, if there's one of them that I could have kept, it would have been Hainsey for depth purposes. He's a versatile offensive lineman, but he wants to start, and he deserves the opportunity to start. So, yeah, I mean, good for him on getting a nice little deal with the Jaguars, and he'll be a starter. Mr. JTS, who knows? Maybe change of scenery helps him a bit. He gets to play opposite Myles Garrett. That's probably be a backup. So who knows? It might work out for him, but he's not someone that I'm not losing sleep over leaving either of them. But if there were one of the two I could have kept, it would have been Hainsey.
Hainsey got about $7 to $8 million a year over in Jacksonville. You knew it was either there or Vegas for him, with Spytek and Brady in Vegas, Liam Cohen in Jacksonville. His Bucs 78 says, "Fire the damn cannons! Go Bucs! Go Bucs! Go Bucs!" Yes, sir. Bucs 78, and then El Monito joins us live on Facebook. So, but I agree with you, Cats. Hainsey probably more critical, but we can afford a backup O lineman at that price. JTS gets 1 year, about 4.75 from Cleveland. Joey, Colts seen a couple guys move, a couple guys enter. What's next for your team as we head into day 3 tomorrow? Well, we still got tonight, but tomorrow's day 3 of free agency. Blank is next for the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm going to just go out on a limb and say Trey Hendrickson's next for the Indianapolis Colts, because I just think this is all too much of Chris Ballard saying, look, this is my last stab at this. And if you're going to be a little bit suspect about your quarterback play, you might as well have a good defense. So at the very least, you could pound the rock with Taylor, Richardson's legs, and then you could have a good defense around it. If they're saying maybe a second or third round pick, fine. I'll even do you one better. I'll give you a third round pick. And I would even, I love him, but I would even throw in then a Kwity Paye who's on the last year of his contract like Hendrickson. So that way they get a starter at defensive end, because Cincinnati, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They need a lot of defensive help and they're not giving it. So if you give them Kwity Paye and a third round pick, we get Hendrickson back. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I'm all about the splashes right now. I'm living high. I'm living rich, and give me him, because that would mean him and Buckner feasting on that D-line with rookie Latu in his second year now and Big Grove. Then with the D-backs we just talked about, let's live large. I'm hoping for Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, that would be a great move for them. J-Lo, quick thoughts. Anything left on the Colts plate this offseason? 10 seconds.
No, I agree with Joey. If you could play with Trey Hendrickson, you put that with the defense, put in pressure, which will help them more. Or not, maybe go out and go get a receiver to help complement the other two receivers they have on the roster. Or but yeah, tight end. That's number one. Go get a tight end. That's what you need.
There's some out there still, including Evan Ingram, available. I know he was meeting with the Broncos, but that's an interesting name to watch for the Indianapolis Colts, in my opinion. We'd love to stay in that division too and smack Jacksonville upside the head. Cats, quickly, if you were GM of the Colts, anything else, or what would be your next move for them over there in Indianapolis?
I think I'd probably add some wide receiver depth. I don't follow the Colts very closely, but that would be my next move.
I agree. I think, honestly, not like Colts could use depth everywhere. They don't need a lot of pieces, but they could definitely use wide receiver and tight end depth. So I like both your guys.
Even a star, I kind of was liking Metcalf.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying.
He got paid way too much.
There's still some intriguing names out there in wide receiver free agency. Still some very. You got Amari Cooper. You got DeAndre Hopkins. Not that these are,
but they're cheap.
Exactly, and these are guys that could. Not that they're still alpha dominant, but at one point they were number ones And anytime you still have a number one wide receiver available that used to be a number one guy on the market, you know they're hungry. You know they're still looking to get signed. You still got Stephon Diggs out there, Keenan Allen out there, Mike Williams out there, Elijah Moore,
Okay.
Mecole Hardman. One guy I'd want nothing to do with, Deontay Johnson. Yep, Amari Cooper. We mentioned. Hey, Munds, Jimmy Mundo. This is Illinois. Illinois' Jimmy Mundo. Richard T saying hello, everyone, just getting off of work. So the stars are aligning. Then, Joey, if you were looking to save some money but get a dub signing, Tyler Boyd, Juju Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Olamide Zaccheaus are out there.
I really like the Evan Ingram name you said because he's kind of like a hybrid. And like I said, this group here could do better at tight end than Colts' production of tight ends last year.
And really the only other notable tight end out there is Tyler Conklin, who wouldn't be a bad presence. Jimmy Mundo says Cooper Kupp. I'll guarantee you he ends up in Jacksonville. If Jacksonville doesn't get him, terrible free agency for them. Just terrible in my opinion. But speaking of free agency, we are here with NFL free agency. And to me, the NFC North is stockpiling. You got the Packers signing the best guard in free agency, Brooks, to a 4-year, $77 million deal, adding one of the best cornerbacks in free agency with Hodges. You got the Vikings stockpiling, Hargrave and Allen on defense, Isaiah Rodgers on defense, Fries and Kelly, a lot of former Colts on the O-line. Then you got the Bears trading for a couple of O-linemen, signing Dahlman from the Falcons, signing a couple of big defensive linemen, one from Atlanta, one from Indianapolis, being Dio Digbango, and then the big man from Atlanta. The Bears are rocking and rolling. They're re-signing a ton of people as well. The Lions getting Reed was big for them, although they've lost some coaches and pieces. But Joey, NFC North making moves out of all the free agency periods, Bears, Vikings, Packers, Lions. What moves so far have you liked the most out of the NFC North?
I can tell you right now, staying here in Chicago, that Caleb Williams was the most sacked quarterback in Bears history. Now, does that have a little bit to do with him? Of course. But when you are a rookie, you need to enrich the team in trench play on the offensive line, and they did not do that. They had Huey, Louie, and I don't even know what I was going for there, but a bunch of
Huey and Louie.
Yeah, there we go. A bunch of rejects on that offensive line. And now, again, you don't always win through free agency, but you get Thuney from Kansas City, massive move. You get a starting center from Atlanta, massive move. And you get your left guard from the Rams. He can go back to his normal spot, along with Darnell Wright, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago, and then Braxton Jones. So I really like what they did here. That does not mean I think they are coming in first place, but now you can finally see what you have in Caleb Williams when you have a good offensive line. And a little bit, you mentioned the Vikings. Some people are calling them the Indianapolis Vikings right now because of their O-line play. Listen, I know a lot of blame went on Darnold last year, but sometimes you get sacked because your O-line breaks down, and Minnesota's offensive line continued to break down last year. They got a couple of veterans. Did they maybe have to overspend? Sure, but I don't mind overspending when it's at a position of need.
Richard just getting off work. Our guy Jimmy Mundo just heading into work. Big Bears guy says heading into work, but he loves all the help for Williams. Yeah, between Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, hard to compare there. J-Lo, you can't pick the Bears now. Out of the Lions, Packers, and Vikings, out of those three, who do you like the most?
I gotta say Lions. Lions had a corner. DJ Reed will be a good, valuable depth compared to Carlton's, a game guarantee player out of him. No disrespect, but DJ Reed's a good pickup. I feel who's going to help their defense on the DB room for the most part. I just picked them. The Vikings, they added some good depth piece with their 2D linemen and both Allen and then also Hargrave, whatever his name is. Anyway, long story short, they had those two in there to help with their interior. So it's kind of hard to pick. But you know what? I'm going to revert the Vikings. Vikings definitely had a better.
You just said the Lions.
I know I'm inverting now. I changed my mind.
All right. Well, all right.
Shit.
Yeah, you're sticking with the Lions since you said them first. That's what you get.
Okay.
Cats. Out of the Vikings or the Packers, which of these two teams are more appealing to you after this?
Minnesota. I liked what they did in extending Murphy. I thought that was a very smart move. I really liked Isaiah Rodgers is the guy I liked for the Bucs. They got him. I thought that was a smart move. Obviously, yes, he is a Tampa guy, so I'm a little biased, but I really thought that was good depth signing for the cornerback room. And then, yeah, the defensive lineman signings, like and the guys they signed from Indy as well. I really like what Minnesota's done.
I'll make the argument for the Green Bay Packers, and I like how you guys all brought good talks to the table. Listen, Aaron Banks, left guard, was the best available guard in free agency. Not talking about trades, talking about free agency. I think Packers got him on a pretty good contract, 4 for $77. Then Nate Hobbs, one of the better nickelbacks available in free agency, lands in Green Bay on a pretty favorable deal. Last year, they brought in McKinney and Jacobs as big splashes. They continue that model this year with Hobbs and Banks. Now, I would like to see Green Bay add an extra weapon, wide receiver, tight end wise out there for Jordan Love. They could surely use it. But in terms of adding an O-lineman, we're all talking about protection here, right? So, Joey, good Bears synopsis. J-Lo, good. You talked about like every team under the sun, but good job. Cats, good job bringing the heat for the Vikings. And I did my best arguing for the Packers. Here on the Buccateers, talking all things free agency. Joey, quickly, we got a handful more of topics to get to on today's program, but Colts cornerback duo looking strong. Ward and Brents could be a top tandem.
Yeah, and absolutely, like you said, protection's not only important on the field, it's important off the field for you young ones out there, but sticking to on the field between Ward and Brent. See, sometimes I lose my thought when I try to joke, make an old man joke over here, but as I have a headband on.
I think you got J-Lo excited. He turned his camera off.
That's what I do. Anyway, sticking to the task at hand, the Colts cornerback room, I'm very excited about. I mean, Juju Brents hasn't stayed healthy. Speaking of Isaiah Rodgers, I was a big fan of him too in Indy. The only reason he got released is because of some gambling things that he got influxed in, and he was really having a good year. So that was a good move. Agree with Cats. But sticking to the Colts, like I said, between Kenny Moore, Ward, Juju Brents, Jalen Jones, and the safety group now, that's why Lou Anarumo is here to fix that and to have them be hybrids, move all over the field. So pretty amped today about the Colts defensive situation.
Daniel says still ecstatic. Godwin back with the Bucs. Do you see Bucs leaning heavy on defense in the draft? Absolutely. Middle linebacker, safety, cornerback, edge, interior D-line. I think we might have at most 2 offensive picks. The rest will be defense. So I agree. I'm ecstatic. Godwin's back. Levante back. Merriweather back. Bredeson, Nelson. The band's back together. Now keep adding. Great job with Dixon. Great job with Reddick. Keep adding depth pieces here and there like a lot of teams are. And a lot of teams are making moves early on in free agency, both trades-wise and others. But out of a few of the teams, again, I wish we could sit here all day and go through every single move, but sadly we can't. So I came up with 4 teams who I think are having at least notable free agencies, some of the better quote-unquote additions between trades and free agencies around the world of football. So again, the rules are once a team is picked, you cannot pick them anymore. I'll go last because that's the role the host plays. But Cats, we're going to start with you this time because we started the other way around last time. But Cats, out of the Las Vegas Raiders, some notable moves are Alex Kappa, Geno Smith, a couple other headlines, obviously John Spytek, big as well. Carolina Panthers are making a ton of moves and signings. I think they've made about 10 so far. New England Patriots are spending a crap ton of money with new head coach Mike Vrabel over there, especially on the defense. Or the New York Giants making big moves, safety, defensively, defensive back-wise. Cats, out of those 4 teams, Raiders, Panthers, Patriots, Giants, whose offseason are you liking the most?
I'm going to go with the Raiders, and really just for one reason, that they got themselves a quarterback. I mean, Jimmy Geno Smith is not great anymore, but he's still a good, solid quarterback, which is something they have not had for a few years. So that move alone, for me, puts them at the top of those teams you mentioned.
Yeah, and again, they also got Jeremy Chin, the safety, Landon Roberts, the middle linebacker. So they're having a very nice offseason, are the Raiders. You mix in Geno Smith, as you alluded to, for cheap. Alex Kappa for cheap. So Katz is going with the Raiders so far. J-Lo, that means you're next here. Out of the Panthers, the Patriots, and the Giants, and if you need help with who the additions have been to this point, I could list them for you. Who do you like the most offseason wise? Raiders went with Cats went with the Raiders. So you got Panthers, Patriots, or Giants, J-Lo?
I'm gonna go with the Giants. Adding that corner, Adebo, whatever his name is, Paulson Adebo from the Saints. I liked him for the Bucs. Maybe that's a good pickup. And then I believe they picked up a safety as well. I came out top of my
Some
head.
of the pickups they made,
From Miami, Javon, he's really good.
Yeah. James Hudson, O lineman, Javon Holland, safety, Paulson Adebo, quarterback, Chauncey Golston, edge, Chris Board, linebacker, and Roy Robertson Harris, defensive tackle.
I think it's going to help the defense tremendously, especially with Setzi Detsy, Dexter Lawrence. That dude's a beast. You add more to help him around, help get pressure, plus play great coverage. It's just one step in the right direction for the Giants, defensive wise. Just got to get their quarterback in line. That's the only thing they're missing, because you can't go.
Joey, Patriots or Panthers? Who do you like more? If you need help with the moves, I could list them for you.
I'm going to go with the Patriots simply for the fact that Vrabel came in and he's installing his defense. He took Harold Landry, who's very familiar with. I was a big fan of that signing from Tennessee. Not really sure why Tennessee kind of just let him walk. I know in this group particularly, we're not huge on Carlton Davis, but they needed a corner.
We like Carlton.
Yeah, so that's a good move. And then on the defensive line, they did it at all three levels. They also got Milton Williams, which was a big signing to get a guy in the middle there. So, I mean, New England is making a lot of moves, smaller ones like Josh Dobbs, Mac Hollins on offense. But I do like that, Vrabel's like, listen, we're going to be in this rookie mode with our QB where I think Drake May could take a tremendous step in year two. Let's pay some guys and be comparable again. Not really sure what happened, if Gerard Mayo got a fair shake or not, but I know Mike Vrabel's a good coach, and I'd like to see what he can do with that defense now.
Yeah, I like all the moves you mentioned. People saying they're overpaying. The Patriots have to, but I think they're making good moves. But again, New England has to. They offer Godwin $20 million more. He didn't go there. They also got Morgan Moses, their starting right tackle. Robert Spillane will be their starting linebacker, and Chris Kyrus Tunga, a nose tackle. I guess that leaves me to defend the Panthers here. Then we got a couple of questions that are closeout segments. The Panthers have had a nice offseason as well. Their attack and defense, you could tell it's needed. They've gotten Bobby Brown, the nose tackle, Tershawn Wharton, the DN from the Chiefs, Trayvon Morig, the safety, Pat Jones, the linebacker, and then Sam Martin, the punter as well. So pretty strong offseason, notably Bobby Brown. I think that's a big signing. They were trying for the cat that went to New England. They ended up with Bobby Brown. Then Tershawn Wharton, huge piece for Kansas City. Big part of their success goes over to Carolina. So I think they're building good on defense. And Trayvon Morig is a respected safety. Pat Jones, a notable depth piece linebacker. And Sam Martin is a pros pro punter. Jihad Campbell, I like a lot. I think he'd be good value at 19. I just don't know if that's in the Bucs' blood to do that, Richard. But I think Campbell's more than worthy at 19. But it depends who we sign. If we sign a better corner than linebacker, I think we go Jihad. If we sign a linebacker, not a corner, I think a corner's more appealing in the draft. You see Tampa trying a cheap 1 year. Maybe a Sterling Shepard or a very low-end type, but we got a top three by far. McMillan, Evans, Godwin. And then listen to it. You got a lot of bodies for two wide receiver spots pretty much, right? You got Ryan Miller, which, by the way, he'll be joining the program. That's going to be incredible. Not sure when yet, but Bucs wide receiver Ryan Miller will be joining the show. You still got Trey Palmer as well. You still got Cam Johnson, a UD undrafted free agent from last year. You still got Rakim Jarrett. So, again, you got a lot of potential wide receivers fighting for a couple of spots. So, I don't know if it's a guarantee they sign a depth wide receiver, maybe a cheap one, maybe. But again, you're going to have the big three ain't going anywhere. Godwin, Evans, McMillan, obviously locked in. And then outside of that, you have a lot of young, good talent out there fighting for a couple of spots. So you got Trey Palmer, Rakim Jarrett, Ryan Miller, and Cam Johnson all on the roster still. So it's tricky to say what we do, but you are watching the Buccateers. Catch the instant replay on Apple, Spotify, Google, so much more. YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on as we're winding down here with our free agency madness, talking all things NFL free agency. Joey, we'll get your breadwinner here momentarily. Upcoming Buccateers will be live Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, to keep going over free agency, a little bit of March Madness talk, baseball talk, and so much more. If news breaks before then, we'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday potentially, but you could guarantee us back Saturday, even if news broke and we came at you earlier. Before we get to breadwinner, Joey, want to ask you 10 seconds or less, more excited for March Madness or opening day baseball coming up?
Oh, give me March Madness. It's that first 2 weekends are just so magical. We have all summer for baseball.
Cats, quickly, MLB opening day or March Madness?
MLB opening day.
J-Lo, close us out.
March Madness, baby. Go Gators. Let's go, boys.
Look at that. Look at that. So, J-Lo, I think you're breadwinner. Gator Chomp, I got them to win money, baby. I put money on them before the year started. So, I'd be very happy if the Gators win. I think we had an off week, or not off, but I think we hit even last week in breadwinners. J-Lo, you had Pereira. He lost on unanimous decision in UFC. We were 2-1 plus $2 going into last week, I believe, something like that. I have it written down. Oh yeah, 2-1 plus $2 going into last week. But Pereira lost. Joey, your Auburn lost as well. My Penn State hit. My Penn State won outright. I should have took their money line. Would have been a big one for us, but the spread hit. And then Cats, you hit as well with the Florida Panthers over the Buffalo Sabres. So we remain positive on the year. We're 4-3, and we remain at plus $2 on the season at 4-3. We're going to get to breadwinners and final words here next. But Joey, one last word on NFL free agency. Anything on your mind before we get to breadwinner and final word?
No, just keep attacking. I mean, it's not about how big a move you make. It's about how many moves you can make, to me, more so sometimes, because it's about creating depth and more options. So for the Bucs and the Colts, just keep attacking. Let's see, a move here and there to keep shoring things up.
J-Lo, last thoughts on free agency or anything in the world of sports, brother?
Day 2, got a couple more days to go until I'm going to next week. I like what's that.
Oh, breaking news.
Oh,
the Ravens make a big signing.
Uh-oh.
The Ravens have signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. We just talked about him. So Baltimore gets a nice pairing with Zay Flowers, guys. D-Hop is going to join his former teammate Derrick Henry in Baltimore. How about that?
Let's see if we can stay healthy. You see it's healthy. I can stay productive. I don't know. D-Hop ain't what he used to be, but hey, it's a good addition, I guess. If he stays healthy.
Only $5 million for D-Hop. That's pennies on the dollar.
What was weird about him in Kansas City? It's like he faded out towards the. He was hot like in the beginning of his playing, and I feel like it kind of faded. So I think it's a good move, cheap move, but curious.
It's a low risk, high reward move. I feel even if he sucked and you wasted $5 million, I mean, God forbid, what is that in the NFL? You could tell he wanted to win if he is taking that offer. Cat's thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens?
I think it's a great signing, given that all you're giving him is $5 million. I mean, you're buying, so it's such a buy low type of, prove it type deal that what have you got to lose? So I think it's a really nice move, the Ravens.
I agree. And any other thoughts in the world of free agency that we may not have touched on, Cats, or in sports in general, MLB, March Madness?
Yeah, well, the Bucs have done a great job right away of, keeping their own that they set out to do and already addressing needs. Obviously, punter you don't think a lot about, but it was definitely a need. They went and did that today. And of course, getting Haason Reddick. I've been begging for an edge rusher for a long time. And I know last year was a quirky year for him with the holdout, but he's been consistently before that a fantastic edge rusher. He worked with Larry Foote, and he played for Larry Foote out in Arizona. I am just so fired up for that move. Absolutely ecstatic. And I hope they're not done adding edge rushers, because I always feel you can never have enough of them.
That's why I loved when we got Nelson back, too. I'm like, it's awesome, man. Why the frick not? And it's official when Cubs and Dodgers play opening day in Japan next Tuesday and Wednesday. The Dodgers announced Yamamoto for game 1 and Sasaki for game 2. So, going to be tough sledding for the Cubbies. It's like, man, oh, man. D-Hop is like...
Just hope we split.
Yeah, I hope we split too, man. Hey, let's make up last time Ohtani was out there, the interpreter went down, so let's make up some other false news and hope we get in his head or something a little bit. D-Hop, 5 baby mamas. J-Lo, breadwinner, and final word for the show, brother.
Give me the Lightning on the road tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes. They play at 7:30. I like the Lightning in the money line.
And any final word, or is that it? Well, you lost it. Joey, final word and breadwinner.
Stern but fair for my final word.
And
Can't hear you.
For my breadwinner, I'm going to go, I hate this. I'm done with basketball if it's the sombrero, and I get 3 in a row here. But give me Delaware to cover the 9.5. They're about to tip off against UNC Wilmington in the conference. Everybody is, mouth is watering tonight over the CAA championship. So give me Delaware plus 9.5.
I like that. College basketball in full force. Delaware plus 9.5. Cats, me and you went 2-0 last week. Do you like anyone in the world of sports this week?
Yeah, I just checked the NHL slate. Winnipeg Jets. I don't know what the spread is, but just the Jets to beat the Rangers.
And any final word for the program?
Go Bucs. Keep up the great work, Jason Light. We love you.
And Xavier Woods agreement, 2-year deal, $10 million with the Tennessee Titans. Not the wrestler out there, but the football player. Xavier Woods. As Olive joins us, better late than never. Hello, Olive. Thanks for joining us. Joey just left, but we're here for another minute or so. I gotta pick a breadwinner now. I should have been more prepared, right? It is the Buccateers after all. Let me see if I'm going with the breadwinner for tonight. I'm gonna stick with college basketball. Give me 'tis the season of college basketball. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is a tough one. Give me Albany plus 11 against Bryant. You never know with these tournaments, so I'll take Albany plus the 11 versus Bryant. That's in the American East Conference tournament. So J-Lo going with the Lightning money line, Joey Delaware spread, Cats Jets, Winnipeg Jets money line, Tones Albany spread. If you guys missed it, catch a replay on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, so much more. My final word is never miss a minute by turning that notification bell on. You never know when we might go live. If we have breaking news Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, we'll be back. If not, join us Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Couple moves that just happened. Hopkins to the Ravens. Not too bad going from Mahomes to Lamar. And Xavier Woods to the Titans. And that'll do that. JTS to the Cleveland Browns. Ladies and gentlemen, final word is go Bucs, fire the damn cannons. Welcome in Dixon. Welcome in Reddick. Welcome back Nelson. Welcome back Banks. Welcome back Merriweather, David, Bredeson, Godwin, and everybody else. Let's fucking go, Jason Light. Don't stop cooking, baby. You're doing a hell of a job, big guy. We love you, Tampa. Peace until next time. Enjoy the rest of free agency. Bay! What a time for sports. March Madness conference tournaments, NFL free agency, baseball less than a week away. Oh, baby, I'm all bricked up. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Punter.
Game on Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Bucs.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.